My name is Justin Silver. Welcome to the Sci-City Mission and Vision discussion. This is going to be, very heavily based off of Simon Sinek's Start with Why. But we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty. All of you here are here for one reason. You've got a company and you want to do something with it. You want to build it, you want to grow it, you want to make profits for your family, you want to do something. You want to change the world in some small way. And today we're going to talk about how we're going to do it in a really important tactical way. From a logistics perspective, any other updates from the Sci-City team? Good to go. We're ready to rock and roll. Who am I? Who is this guy standing in front of you? My name is Justin Silver. My pronouns are he and him. I started my career in investment banking. I was at Credit Suisse, which no longer exists. Sad, RIP Credit Suisse. I was in the mergers and acquisitions group. I did deals heavily in the consumer front, working with gigantic brands like Kraft, Heinz, and a bunch of other ones. From there, I went into consumer private equity, investing in early stage consumer businesses. So has anyone here tried Bonza, the chickpea pasta company? Ooh, okay, we'll get more people on that. Or used Tatcha, a luxury skincare brand. Couple hands up, amazing. We were early investors in those brands and a bunch of others that you probably don't know because they don't exist anymore, but those are the hits. And after that, I went and got my MBA at Wharton. I knew I wanted to start a company. I knew going in, I said, I want to start a company, but I didn't know exactly what. And serendipitously, on the second day of school, I sat next to this woman at lunch who would become the co-founder of my company, Avrani. We are a beauty brand powered by science and inspired by tradition. My co-founder is an Indian-American woman. Her name is Rushi Roy, and it's based off of the ancient rituals from her and her family, these Ayurvedic secrets for thousands of years, combined with really powerful clinical science. Right now, we have skincare, and excitingly, we'll be launching hair care in Sephora in 2024. So some big news. That's like a clap-worthy thing. Good job, good job. All right, now, excitingly, one thing that we love to do is help founders out. I'm going to help you guys all out throughout this session. You can help me out. Pull up your phones. Follow us on Instagram. Every single follower counts. I think we're at like 45K in. So hopefully there's 4 or 5 viral TikTokers here. You'll make TikToks about this, and then it'll be huge. In any case, I've been a venture advisor at Yale for many years. It is truly the most rewarding thing that I do. I love to be able to help students grow their businesses, but importantly, I'm not giving you entrepreneurship professor advice. This is not, let's look at the studies, let's look at this. This is hyper-tactical, real-world advice, helping you to take your company from 0 to 1. That 1 could mean so many different things. 1 million in revenue, going from not having raised $1 in fundraising to doing more on the nonprofit side, in creating some brand new technology, coming up with an MVP or minimum viable product. There's so many things that Sci-City is amazing at, and you're going to get to access that all throughout this programming, the venture series, and so many more. I'm also an ice hockey champion while I was in business school. I never ice skated before, but I was on a team called the Sexy Pucks, and we won the championship in 2018. It was a huge win. I'm still talking about it to this day. Maybe I changed that up on the bio. It's getting a little stale. But also a pizza connoisseur. I've tried almost every single pizza place in New York City and in New Haven. If you ever want to do a pizza tour, I'm around. But let's get into the heart of it. We're all here today to talk about one thing: why. We're going to talk about mission and vision and the formalities of that. But you're here today to understand why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And understanding that is going to make you way better at your jobs, make you a way better leader, a way better founder. Let's talk about some innovative companies and who we love. Over the past 20 years, maybe excluding the last 2 years, because there's been a lot of crazy things happening with AI, but over the last 20 years, what have been some of the most innovative companies that you know? This is a hand raise activity. Tesla, very innovative. Electric cars, brought them to the forefront. Now they're everywhere. What else? There are no wrong answers here. Go for it in the back. And then Spotify, pretty cool. Taking music ownership. We all used to have CDs. We owned them. And then they were like, no, you'll pay us monthly. and you'll get to access that music that you once owned. Meta, Facebook, now they own Instagram. So much stuff going on. Talk to me more about hardware. NVIDIA, certainly very recently, explosive growth, really exciting stuff. Blue Origin as well, yes? Apple. Okay, cool. So we got there. I was going for Apple. That was from the get-go. I was like, man, maybe the cult of Steve Jobs had fallen away and this example is going to fall flat. But no, we got there. Apple has been an innovator, and I think in the past, call it 5 years, things have gotten a little stale, and we might talk about why we think that's the case. But I want you to take a time machine back with me 10, 15 years. Think about when everyone had many of you might have been in middle school, but everyone had iPods. The idea of the iPhone was brand new. And now almost everybody has an iPhone in their pocket. But there are a lot of computer makers. There's a lot of cell phone manufacturers. There was Motorola, BlackBerry. There were tons of companies that were doing this thing. But one thing that set them apart was this idea of why. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to use an example called the golden circle to demonstrate why Apple had such success. Golden circle, 3 circles, just like this. Boom. Pretty good. I'd say mediocre circles, but really good concept. Most companies, when they're talking about business, when they talk about their company themselves, they say what they do. So if I asked you, have you ever heard of Dell Computers? Have you ever heard of Dell Computers? Yes. What do? They make computers. Very good. That was an easy one. It was an easy one. Most companies start with what? The outside circle, because it's really easy. When you hear companies describe themselves, they're describing it with the what. What do they do? The basics of it. And if you think into your brain, our most recent evolution of our brain, the what is the new part. Being able to describe exactly what it is. There's no feelings, there's no cause. It's just the actual what, the logical what. What's another company out there? We said Tesla. I remember we mentioned that. What does Tesla do? They build electric vehicles. That's exactly right. It's simple. It's the fastest thing that goes into our mind. And yet it's one of the least powerful things you can say. If I said, there's this insane company, they build EVs. A lot of companies building EVs. A lot of brands building electric vehicles. A lot of brands innovating in batteries and doing that. But what makes Tesla, and we'll talk more about Apple, so special is they're going beyond that. The next line inside is the how. Most brands, or not most, every single brand, every single company, every single organization knows what they do. And then most of them know how they do it. How does a nonprofit raise money? Oh, we phone call different people, they give us money, we throw a golfing event and we raise money for charity. How does Coca-Cola sell their product? First, they mix this secret formula, then they screw the cap on, they send it to distributors, then they deliver it. The how, most of the time, you know how it's done. But the most important piece of the puzzle is this inner circle, and that's the why. The vast majority of companies don't know their why, and that's where each of you are going to have an edge. The why goes way deeper than the what or the how. It's a cause. It's a mission. It can be spoken without words. It can reach millions of people, and it can motivate them way beyond money. So think about the Apple example here. When Apple talks about, or we'll talk about Dell first. When Dell talks about computers, they'll have a commercial or they'll have an ad that you'll see on Instagram and they'll say, we make amazing computers. We do that through having really good technology, the best of the top of the line screens. Buy our product. And it's weak. It doesn't inspire. If you're looking for those specific things, maybe you'll buy that product, sure. But Apple does the opposite. Apple says, we challenge the status quo. That's where they start. We are innovators, and we challenge the status quo. How do we do that? Through amazing design and unique technology. Oh, and by the way, we make computers. That inspires. Now, anyone who thinks that they're an innovator, who thinks that they challenge the status quo, they're inspired, they're intrigued. That was the magic of what Steve Jobs was creating is it started with why. So often, student entrepreneurs are so caught up in which part? Where do you think student entrepreneurs get caught up the most? The how. The how and even the what. What should my idea be? I really want to work on a project. I really want to do work at Sci-City. It's this amazing program. What should I do? That's the question I get asked most often from an early stage student entrepreneur. What should I do? And yet it's probably the least important part of the puzzle. Because if you're able to start with why, the rest of this is it's a very different conversation. And going back to Apple, if you start with why, we are an innovator, we're disruptive, we do this through design, through groundbreaking technology, and we sell computers, you get to the core of this whole thing, which is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. We're going to write that down. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I want you to think of your favorite brand right now. Close your eyes and think of your favorite brand. Okay, eyes open, raise your hand. What brand were you thinking of? Kirkland Signature. I love that answer. An amazing brand. Who else? Diet Coke. All right. One more. Patagonia. Headspace. Why is that your favorite brand? Value and quality. Service? Yeah. Sustainability, a commitment to that. Consistency. Okay. We heard some talking about the product, but we can key into Patagonia specifically. There's a lot of people. Everyone in this room is wearing a shirt. I think Sci-City has a sign. It's like a no shirt, no shoes, no service, I think here. But there's something more powerful about buying a shirt from Patagonia, buying a jacket from Patagonia. What is that? I can give you a clue. It's written up here. Group, it's raining. You throw up your hands. There's no wrong answers.
I guess it's the why. Like if you have some sort of...
That's right. You're not going to buy a jacket for $250 just because the quality is slightly better. There's a lot of jackets out there, and there are people making high-quality jackets for lower prices. But they've been able to build a long-standing, forever-type brand because they're driving from a why. And even though for some of the brands we talked about, Kirkland, Headspace, there's like a quality, for Diet Coke, a consistency element, those all, if you were to pull back the layers, those all come from a why. For Kirkland, there's like a quality, there's a value combination, but it's almost that gives you the ability to buy in bigger quality, bigger quantities. There's so many layers to each of these brands that have deeply impacted us, and this is consumer, this is nonprofit, this can even be B2B. Starting with why changes the entire game. And remembering that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, will change the way you interact with every facet of your business. So we're going to do an activity now. I want to take everybody who is in the accelerator, and you're going to be going to either side of one of these boards. Everyone who's not in the accelerator, stay seated and either take out a notebook or have your laptops, and we're going to each make one of these golden circles. Now, if you have a company, of course, you can do that in this way, but I want you to write out your what first, because that should be easy. Then your how, that should be relatively easy, and then your why. That might be top of your head, it might be buried deep within. This is the time to unearth that. So all the accelerator companies, please hop up to the boards. Everybody else, please stay seated and break out your notepads. We're going to take about 5 to 7 minutes to get this done. So write quickly, keep it short. The goal isn't to write out a paragraph of what you do or even a full sentence. Keep it to a couple of words and we'll get each of those going. All right, we've got about 7 minutes. Begin. We've also got Margaret circling around. I think I saw her there. She's helping out as we're going through this. Write your venture name on top. And a quick note, if you don't have a venture yet and you're here just to learn, I want you to do this about yourself. Put your name at the top and talk about what you do. You're a student at Yale. You're interested in entrepreneurship. Talk about how you do it. Oh, I go to classes, I do homework, I study. But then get to your why. In some ways, most of these companies that you're going to see that we talk about through the accelerator, they're going to provide whys that are personal. And so even if you don't have a company yet, your personal why may become the why of your company in not too long of a time. Remember, the why might not come easily. It might not be top of mind. This is the work. You're actually doing important work right now to help figure that out. And if you can't get there, that's what the team at SciCity is going to help with. But the why is hard. It might not be at the tip of your tongue. It might take a bunch of reflection. The why might take a lot of thought before you unlock it. And for the teams in the accelerator, think hard about that why. And while I know it might be easy to write it in like just a dash, what, how, why, using the circle will actually help crystallize the way this is supposed to feel. The why is at the core. The why is at the center of what you're building. And that's very meaningful. That's very powerful. So if you can, if you've got a pen, or if you have the ability to, actually draw it like a circle versus just typing it out. And in case you're having trouble finding that why, some of the other pieces that might help you define that are asking yourself to go back to the moment you had this inspiration. What did you feel in that moment? If it's more of a personal why, what do you feel most often that inspires you to do what you do? If it's a company, what was the initial spark? What was the problem that you felt? It's oftentimes emotional. You rarely feel, or you rarely hear a why that doesn't motivate. The why should be deep. It can very often be emotional. All right, we're going to give everybody one more minute. If you're still working, wrap up your last statements here. All right, excellent. We're going to pause. I'm going to ask the accelerator companies one at a time to walk through their golden circles. And I want everyone to pay attention because you are all critiquers. You might be investors. You might be nonprofit funders. You might just be potential customers. But each of you are going to help these companies feel out if their why is really connecting. So we're going to start here, I believe, Matcha Scrubs. If you could turn your board and introduce yourself. Oh, we have a microphone, Sade. A round of applause for Sade one more time. 10 out of 10, making this all happen. Introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, and your venture, and then start with why.
Hi everyone, my name is Michaela Barker, she, her, hers pronouns. My venture is called Matcha Scrubs, and my why is to increase cultural competency in healthcare and create a sense of belonging. How is by manufacturing a consumer product that can be direct to consumers or B2B, and building off of consumer pain points and feedback and spurring innovation. And the what, they are satin lined scrub caps for healthcare providers, so clinicians, doctors, nurses, so forth, that have a moisture wicking sweatband. They are adjustable and have an eye shield or glasses holder, which is not currently on the market as a part of scrub caps.
All right, thank you for going first. Now, tell me what her company does. Don't look over there, you have to look at me though. Shower caps. That feels pretty far from what you told me, and as far as I know what you guys do. This is beautifully said, and it's really well put together, but the complexity muddies the waters. I want you to work on simplifying this. And I think maybe that's my directions, but the why, the how, the what should be simple. Anybody should be able to quickly explain right back to you exactly what you're doing. I know it goes way deeper than a couple of words on a page, but being able to tell your vision, to explain your why and have every single person get it, like that's the difference between someone who's great at communicating their vision and somebody who's still working on it. Excellent. All right, you can go next and please turn your board and we'll flip it around after.
We're going to turn the other.
Excellent. Name, pronouns, start with why.
My name is Bade. I'm building Guidely. Our why is to help people feel at home wherever they move to. How use software technology to provide information, resources, and community in the immigration journey, and what we're building a settlement and relocation operating system.
Okay. How do we feel? On a scale of 1 to 10, is that easy to understand? Do we get that why? Throw up numbers, 1 through 10. I'm seeing between 5 and 10. That's solid, but there's room to grow. I love what you put together. I think your why is simple, to help people feel at home. Simplify that, cut out the end of it. This is an exercise in streamlining how you talk about your business. What did I say was the biggest, or one of the things I hear as a student entrepreneur? The first thing people are always asking me, what should I do? What do I do? What do I do? The second biggest issue with student entrepreneurs is they're providing so much info that it overwhelms the listener. They have so many amazing things to say, so many great things to talk about, so many cool things they're doing, that it becomes too much to understand. Simplifying your message and providing a really streamlined why, how, and what, that is going to make you stand out among your peers and frankly among just entrepreneurs in the wild. This is a critical exercise. Thank you so much. Can we flip that board over? We'll do a big applause at the end for everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Morrison. I am the founder of Win Number. So our why is that we elect leaders who are willing to take on society's big challenges by making voters feel heard and empowered in the political process. We do that by modeling the candidate's individual district to help that campaign understand which voters to talk to. And our what is that we work with local campaigns to help them build their voter contact universe and run effective persuasion programs.
Okay. I can sense already there's so much amazing stuff in this. I've talked to them, seen their presentation. There's so much going on. But I'd love for you to just tell me, without looking, what their why is. Elect candidates that make voters feel empowered. There's definitely a lot of that. That's a great summary. I think we want to continue to sharpen that message and make it crystal clear. You're doing so many amazing things. We can really tighten that up. Well done. We'll move on to Xiaoming's right brain. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys see? I'm Xinning. I'm a junior at Yale College. Our project is called Xiaoming's Right Brain. We are a YouTube literature channel. Our why is we want to make the learning of Chinese language literature fun and accessible. So the two keywords are really just fun and accessible. A little bit of background is there is a surging interest in learning about Chinese culture, Chinese literature. But if you look on the digital supply of Chinese literary information, a lot of it is either very academic focused. That just poses a really high barrier to entry to people. So what we want to do is we really want to make Chinese literature or at large Chinese culture your next favorite digital detox and your next favorite digital pastime. And the way we do it is through posting YouTube videos, and it's targeted to be a Chinese language literature crash course. So follow us on YouTube. You can look at our handle here.
Excellent. I think you've done something unique here, which was you highlighted just two words, right? What were they? Accessible. And that is allowing you as the listener, as the consumer, as the buyer, as the donator, as the funder to quickly identify them. Oh, what was Xiaoming's right brain? Oh, it was about the fun and accessible. Oh, yeah, there was something like the Chinese culture. Oh, Chinese literature. And you can build out that story from the why. But when you start with why and it's fun and accessible, anyone can remember that. That is the beauty of starting with why. It's emotional and it sticks with people. To think about investors for just 1 second. How many pitches on average do you think an investor sees? And we're talking seed investors, angels, VCs, every single year on average. 900, 1,000 more. How much more would you guess? 1,200? 5,000? It's lower than 5,000. The answer is around 2,000 to 2,500. Think about that for a second. There's only 365 days in a year. That means on average, they're getting dozens of presentations every single week. What do you think most of those presentations talk about? If we were to describe a why and a how and a what Which one, where do they all focus? The what? The new technology, the new AI, the interesting NFT project from 2 years ago. There's always a focus on the what. And most of those companies don't get funded. If every VC funded 2,000 companies a year, it would be a wild time. So it's really about connecting on the why. And if you are all investors, being able to really clip in and understand that why quickly and remember it and have it stick in your head, that's why this is so important. If you're just talking about the what, investors are going to move right on. Potential nonprofit funders are going to move right on. You have to make them feel something. And the easiest and best way to do that is to start with why. We could flip around that board and we'll have the next team go.
So hi, I'm Feli. I'm an MBA student and the founder of Wealth Me Up. Why we build Wealth Me Up? Because we want to empower young professionals to be in charge of their financial future. And how we do that, we are building an app that provides gamified financial education through bit-sized knowledge, engagement, and personalized content.
I love that. Okay. Empowering young professionals about their financial future. While I think that is the why, I think you can describe that more powerfully. And I think there's a way that we'll work on throughout this semester, how we can take that why to make it more of a feeling. Yeah. Empowering young professionals about their financial future, that's nice. You could write that on a slide, but it's not going to drive someone to really do something crazy. Invest, be a part of it, join your team. We can go deeper than that.
Suggestions?
We'll work on that over the course of the semester. Thank you so much. All right, you guys can go. You can please turn your board to face the audience. Thank you so much, Matt. Matt fixed it. I had a meeting expire. He saved the day. Go ahead.
Here at Opportunify,
Sorry, start with your names and your pronouns, and then we'll get to the company.
My name is Jacopo, he, him, his.
I'm Reese, he, him, his as well.
So the why of Opportunify comes from a very simple problem. Many of you might have applied to finance or consulting roles. We all know how difficult and competitive it is. And sometimes it is so not just because it is difficult, but because we don't have an equal and fair access to information and opportunities. We want to solve that. That's our why. We want to give every student a fair chance to succeed and become the best versions of themselves. So that's our why. And the what is a one-stop solution where students from all different units can access the same amount of information so that the competition is just on what they bring to the table and not whether they were educated in a place or in another. And the what is give mentorship and give a possibility to apply and have an overview of all opportunities worldwide.
Thank you so much. So both your team and Xiaoming's right brain or left brain? Right brain. They both did something interesting. I had said start with why. What did both of those teams start with? They did not. They started with something else. Anyone know? Go ahead. Wow, nailed it. They started with their problem statements. And while that can be powerful, this is about diving a little bit deeper. If you need to start with your problem statement in order for your why to make sense, then that's not the right one. The why should be able to be felt by most people, to inspire most people without even having to talk about the problem. And that's something we can work on to really tighten that up and make it so you don't have to say the problem for the why to garner a feeling. I loved everything else. Thank you so much, guys. We move on to the next team.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chikata. I am the founder and CEO of Into Health, and back in college, I volunteered at a crisis hotline, and crisis hotlines are places where you can call in, and whether you're a single mother who's struggling with loneliness or you're an elderly person who has concerns about interpersonal violence, and I'd taken a lot of those kind of calls before, but there was one call in particular that stood out. It was a first-year college student, and she had the most incredible background. She was the first in her family to go to college. Her mother had been incarcerated most of her life. Her father was terminally ill. But she got to college, and within the first few weeks, she got a UTI. And she didn't know where to go. She didn't know who to call on. She didn't know what to do. So she called me at the hotline standing on a bridge. And that's why I decided to found UniHealth. What we do is we guide students faculty, staff to on and off campus healthcare resources so nobody ever has to get that kind of call again.
All right, thank you, Scott. A different way of going about it, your why is a tale, it's a story, an experience that you had, and that can certainly inspire and certainly move people. I think for the right audiences, you have the opportunity to say that. But sometimes you won't always have that kind of megaphone, that amount of time. And so I want to work with you to really take that why that's a story right now and break that down into some feelings. And you can use both during the right moment.
Hello, my name is Lewis. I use he, him, his pronouns. My venture is called Grinning Cat Productions. I guess our why is we want to provide a sustainable model for independent documentary film production. The how we do that is the three of us, my two co-founders aren't here, but the three of us collectively own basically all of the basic equipment that you would need to make a documentary film. And we're also pretty, how do you say, we know a lot of people in non-traditional screening spaces in New York, so we have an idea of how to distribute films if we so choose, and the what is we would actually be producing our own kind of low-budget documentary films in addition to providing a platform for filmmakers who are interested in producing their own work through us.
Amazing. Thank you. Can somebody, how about you, tell me what is his why? That's pretty spot on as far as I see it. It's really strong, and I think especially as you go through, you're able to see and learn from the rest of the team. That's an amazing thing. Thank you so much. A huge round of applause for all these accelerator companies. Very well done. It's not easy to get up there, talk about your why, try and get deep, have me coming in, then I'm asking students to critique them. So thank you guys so much. Please come back, grab a seat. We want to leave some time for Q&A. And so there's a bunch of slides on mission and vision, and I'm going to be able to pass those along to you. We'll send them via email. Mission and vision are so important, but they are dwarfed completely by this concept. If you're able to effectively communicate your why, the mission and vision are an afterthought. You can nail those. Those are easy. Starting with your why is the hardest part of founding a company. Now, I know I asked a few people, if you didn't have a company and you're just here as a person, is anyone interested in telling us their why as a person? And then hitting a how and a what. One brave person out there. That's all right. We'll get to it next time, but please, go for it. We've got a microphone coming to you.
I'm working on Win Number, which is how our political system is going to work in the future. And my why is I saw my dad work on a lot of entrepreneurial ventures, and I saw these as adventures and journeys. My personal why is I want to get involved in our political space and make a positive change and just enjoy the journey.
Thank you so much. The personal why can be so important to drive that long-term conviction in an entrepreneurial venture. I've been building my company now for 6.5 years. Longest job I've ever had. It's really hard to keep going on something if your only motivation is profit. Profit is the positive externality of a successful business. A why is way deeper. So the last thing I'll say before we jump to questions is just thinking about mission and vision, because it would be a disservice if I didn't lock that in. A mission is actually what you just said. It's the future state of the world if your business does what it does. Our mission is, here's this future state of the world. Our mission is to create a world where elections can be fairer. Our mission is almost always followed by to create a world where. It's a really powerful mission. And then your mission, your values are the guardrails. Your values are what you won't do on the way to get to that mission and vision, so that when you arrive there, you're unhappy. Some people say, my mission, my vision, to be a feature in the world where I am rich. And then they have values that are all over the map. And so they do things that make them wealthy. But they get there and they're 50 years old and they have all their money. And are they happy? Sometimes, sure. But sometimes not. Because they didn't have a set of values that were the guardrails to that mission and vision. So when you have this future vision of the world, this mission that you're on, your values help define the guardrails of what you're willing to do to get there. It's really important that you have those values set. My favorite set of values is Sci-City's values. I know that seems crazy, and I'll quickly jump to that slide, but they have this amazing set of values. Let's go in slow here. All right, we'll take that another day here. That's okay. That's Matt. Matt's in the back over there. Round of applause for Matt making this thing happen. Sci-City has amazing values that you should really check out. It's in this beautiful pyramid, and it's a really important part of what we're doing. Thank you so much for being attentive, for being on time, for talking about these ventures to the accelerator participants. Thank you for doing all this great work and presenting to the rest of the students. I'm here for some Q&A. I'd love to open it up.
As a founder, I'm just curious, like, how in your life do you approach mindfulness and taking care of your well-being?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. 10 years ago, no one would have ever asked a question like that. I'd say the number one thing is to ensure you are separating yourself and your personal success from the financial success of your business. This is a mistake I see tons of students make. They think if I don't get funded, if I don't raise VC, if I don't get that nonprofit grant, if I don't get this thing, I failed. And nothing could be further from the truth. There are so many things that go into a company that you have zero control over, and you're not used to that. Normally, you study, there's an exam, you get a grade, and you've all been really good at that your entire lives. And so now when you're faced with building a company where there are a ton of things completely out of your control, and you've tied your personal function of success to the success of the company, it's a recipe for disaster. I highly encourage you to instead have personal goals, have hobbies, have things that you do that give you joy, that give you pride, that gives you a feeling of success outside of the success of your venture. If you're able to do that, it's a lot easier to have well-being overall. Over here. You gotta talk a little bit louder for the camera. It's exciting. We have a camera team. One big round of applause for a guy who's running the camera side. Thank you, Guy.
When you're working with investors, what differentiates an investor who's good for you as a founder rather than just somebody who's giving you money?
Oh my gosh, I could have planted you. That's a great question. What's the difference between investors and how do you find the right ones? There are so many questions that you should ask when you're trying to find the right investors. The wrong investors are one of the biggest reasons I've seen companies fail. Oftentimes there's an issue with product market fit, or there's an issue between founders, right? Those are the common ones. But after you get out of that and you have a good company with product market fit and founders that are functional, the number one reason companies go into shambles is issues with their investors. And it's all about misalignment from the get-go. Each type of investor has a different kind of outcome they're looking for. A VC investor, the Sequoias of the world, they want to see 1,000x. They want a gigantic return, 100x. And that means that they want growth, rapid growth. They don't want to see you 3x over 5 years. That's a waste of their time. And so they'd rather have a bunch of companies go to zero and one company get to that 100x. So if you're jumping in and you're going to get that investment from them, the name is big, that's great, but you're essentially signing up to be the 1% company. And if it works, great, you make $1 billion. And if it doesn't work, try again another day. There's family offices, longer term capital, maybe more aligned with what you're trying to get to your vision, but hard to find, hard to access. There's angels. Sometimes angels want to write a check for 10K and never talk to you again. Sometimes angels want to write a check for 5K and talk to you every other week. You need to understand, maybe you want to talk to them every other week. Maybe they're a really keen advisor. Maybe they're just walking through your P&L and you're like, I'm a startup. P&L is profit and loss statement, your financials. I'm a startup. This doesn't even make sense. Alignment with your investors for a couple of key points. How often you want to communicate. What do you want to communicate about? What's the timeline of the investment? And most importantly, what does success look like? If you hit those 4 points, you are very likely going to have a good relationship with the investor over the course of the investment. Our earliest investors were from February 2018. It's been 5.5 years. Some of our best relationships because we set the right expectations. This is going to be a 5 to 7 year investment. There's not going to be a ton of communication between us. This is really helping us to grow. There's all of those things that we set early on. It's your job as the founder to do that. And if you wait for an investor to do that, you're behind. Thank you. We'll go right here, and then we'll go in the back first, and then we'll come forward.
So there are like studies out there showing that entrepreneurs are less likely to be hired by companies for XYZ. There's stigma out because they want to go do their own thing. They might leave, etc. Do you feel that sort of stigma is real? It's true? Have you experienced anything like that? And what is there to do about that if it is true?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. I think there's studies that show two sides to every coin. Another I've seen shows that entrepreneurs actually skip forward in their career. If you worked on an entrepreneurial project, let's say for 4 years, and then you go back into the workforce, you'll get 4 to 6 years worth of credit for that experience. I think it's about finding the right organizations. Entrepreneurs can make incredible employees, problem-solving capabilities, the ability to work independently, build teams, manage teams. But if it's a red tape-filled, bureaucratic, do your role and nothing else type of role, entrepreneurs might be tough in fitting into that box. The beautiful part, I think, about starting your own company is the ability to connect with hundreds, if not thousands of people, investors, other entrepreneurs, operators. You control your own destiny. And if your company doesn't work out, if you can say you learned something from it, you now have hundreds, if not thousands of people ready and waiting to give you a role where you could take all of the unique things that you learned and keep executing on them for someone else. So I think starting a company is an amazing way to grow your career, even if that company is unsuccessful. But from my experience, I've worked for a bunch of different companies, investment banking, private equity, early stage growth consumer. Being an entrepreneur is way more fun. And we've only got one spin around this whole thing. You want to try and have as much fun as you can. And sometimes it's helpful to get real experience. And I say real experience, I mean working at a traditional job. 2023 is way different than 2012 when I graduated. For some context, I downloaded Instagram after I graduated undergrad. It's like my age. Right now, you can start a company while you're in undergrad, while you're in your MBA program, and you will be taken seriously if you take yourself seriously. If you have a good why and you can communicate that well, if you work with the amazing team at Sci City to build up what you're thinking about, you can do this right now. I felt like I had to work for 5, 6, 7 years before I could do it. It's just not the same anymore. So that was your question and a little extra spice.
The stereotypical startup is fast burn, work late nights and then hit funding deadlines and things like that. I'm in the opposite situation. So my why is very clear to me. I have a low capital intensity. Basically, I could just keep going.
Sure.
My how is not clear. It may take me literally several years to figure out the how. I'm pretty sure the why is good enough that it's going to be a killer. So do you have thoughts on slow burn, long duration build-outs?
Totally. You said that stereotypical startup is that fast burn, late nights, burning the midnight oil. Shout out to Midnight Oil Collective. And yet, I would say that the vast majority of businesses in America, entrepreneurial ventures in the United States, are not that. Every single company that you see, every building, every cafe, every laundromat, every hairstylist, every single one of those, that's an entrepreneur, that's a startup. It's just you don't think about it that way. But the fact is, when you look around, when you walk down the main streets, every single one of those is an entrepreneurial venture. So when I think, what's the stereotypical startup? It's a laundromat. And you're not working late nights. You're not doing all of that work. I think the minority, the very loud, very PR-heavy minority, are the fastest growing companies in America. Oh, we just raised $200 million. But I think most people who start a company are not in that way. Maybe in Size City it feels that way, but I love a great cash flowing small business. I think a lot of times your why can just be to provide a good life for my family. And that's a pretty deep why that almost every person above 30 would really resonate with. And that why might mean you don't need to grow $1 billion company. You don't need to be burning the midnight oil. You just need to create something that works. And so I think that's whatever you're working on. It might take years. It might be slower burn. That's not only okay. I think that's outstanding. We got one. And then I think last question from Francis in the back.
Yeah, my question is just like taking into account our why, how would you recommend building a mission statement for a company?
Yeah, so we can talk about mission and vision, that vision being this future state of the world. This is going to sound pretty aggressive. I think the mission statement, it's overrated. The why is way more important. Everybody wants to have and even on applications, they'll say, what's your mission? What's your vision? And we can craft those. You'll get the slides after they have the details on how to craft a mission statement. It's pretty simple. Crafting your values, you can think about them, you can put them, write them down, but it's not necessarily complex. The why is really the hard part. And when you can lock the why, we'll send the slides through that talk about just saying what your mission is and what your vision is. Your mission is just what you want to do as simply put as you can. So often, and we've talked about this multiple times, student entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general make the mistake of, I need to seem smart. I need to show the world I've got this really differentiated thinking. That couldn't be further from the truth. You're already in the arena. You're already doing something unique. You're here, you're at Yale. People think you're smart. It's actually being able to simplify, to talk to not just dozens, but thousands or millions of people that makes a great mission, a great vision, a great why. And so focus on simplifying, using fewer and simpler words when you describe what you do, and it will have a way more of a powerful impact.
So one of the things that I've noticed going into year 4 of my venture is how the why is and the mission and vision is when things get tough, because it reorients you back to what you were always trying to do and what your team is oriented around. I was wondering if you could tell us about a time where you reoriented yourself in Avrani.
Yeah, of course. There have been a lot of pivot points where we thought the business was going to go bankrupt. We thought we weren't going to be able to produce new products. We were going to have to, there's so many moments throughout the entrepreneurial journey. Each of you might have them that are very roller coaster-like, up and down. And I think for Avrani, it's really about driving a deep why. And it's inspired by my co-founder. It's to give an opportunity for everyone to feel beautiful. And that was crafted over a long period of time. But this idea that every person can feel beautiful in their own skin, in their own hair, that's where we're coming from. And there were so many moments. I'm trying to think about a good one. I think there was a moment over the past year where we had to do a couple of layoffs. Layoffs are terrible. That's maybe one of the worst parts of being an entrepreneur, is if you overhired or a person isn't performing as you thought. And we were doing those layoffs, and it's obviously terrible for that person, but it's tough for a small company and for the owners of that small company. And so while we were going through that, I remember just like getting home and wanting to just go to bed and waking up the next day and feeling still very unmotivated. Or questioning, why am I even doing this? And then we can come back to that why. There's something deep here. We're impacting millions of women across the United States and Canada, eventually the world. And that gives you the ability to keep going, even in those really tough times. That's why the why is so important for the world, but also for yourself.